Indeed, recording is in progress. And we have about an hour and a half together where we will talk about youth as a partner in culture and game making. And I should probably just, while we're getting people in, tell you a little bit about Epic We. It is a Horizon Europe funded project aiming at empowering youth to participate in shaping European culture and their own future by imagining, creating, and exchanging cultural values and heritage through game making. It focuses on exploring and developing new models for cultural collaboration, empowered participation, cultural processes, and design kits for games through and for culture, which can help establish cultural hubs across Europe. In this session, we are particularly exploring how youth can be involved as a partner in culture and game making. And yeah, we're still getting people in. And usually it's quite informal. Um, so I will, depending a bit on how it's going, keep my microphone off, but try to keep the screen on. And then we'll just have our presentations and some discussions. And for those of you participating, hey, Magnus, good to see you back. Magnus Göransson från Sverige, tror jag i alla fall. I do speak Swedish even though I'm Dane, and a bit better than the usual. I grew up in Stockholm. So please, in the chat, share your why you're here, who you are. Maybe share also your LinkedIn profile. Ah, Vincent is here also. So it's good to see you guys back. Magnus, good. So now it is 6 minutes past the hour, so we should start and get going. And I just going to like to first ask M. Hansen to start out. M. Hansen is a research assistant at Aarhus University, works with diversity and inclusion with Epic We. M holds a master's in aesthetics and culture and have specialized in the intersection between queer theory, inclusion, and diversity, and the creative video game industry. M has first-hand experience participating in Epic We cultural game jams, and M has worked as part of the project in facilitating cultural game jams at the Aarhus Hub, and is a member of the Epic We Youth Advisory Board. Welcome, M. The Zoom is yours.
We First of all, hello everybody. I am having a lot of tech issues, so I hope that things are working now. I am using two screens, as you might have noticed, one for a camera and one to share the slides. So I hope that is working out. I would recommend that you look at the slides rather than my face, but it's up to you, I suppose. So I am in this weird hybrid role right now, where I am both a sitting member of the Youth Advisory Board, as mentioned, but also working on Epic We. So I have this weird hybrid role where I know the project very, very well internally, but am also kind of an outsider in regards to being critical towards it and participating in the game jams in the Youth Advisory Board. And as mentioned, I have a master's degree in aesthetics and culture from Aarhus University, where I have specialized in this weird intersection between queerness, culture, and games, which is also one of the parts that we'll get around to later. A small introduction about me, at least from a professional standpoint, is that I am currently a research assistant at Aarhus University. I work on Epic We primarily, do a lot of communication works, and I'm actually a co-lead of the the task force on the youth advisory board. So also do a lot of facilitation of the youth advisory boards as well. And have previously been a project manager, also like working in projects at Aarhus University, also on Epic Wii. So I have a perspective on this project from a lot of different angles. And I've also had some experience within game design, primarily internships and as like a producer, director, coordinator type of person. And I have some experience in coding and a lot of experience in world making and what shall we call it, creative writing maybe, where I've been working on board game projects for a lot of time. Ah, yes, I see someone loves Godot. I think it's the greatest game engine that exists, and I think it's perfect for especially the cultural parts of it. So if anyone is unfamiliar with that, since this is I've been told it's a fairly informal setting, I would recommend that you check out Godot, especially if you're interested in empowerment through digital means and games. I think it's an engine worth checking out. So within my field of expertise and in my field of academia, it is fairly it is custom to clarify positions when one talks. And I don't mean like just saying what I'm professionally trained to do, but also clarifying from where I'm speaking, what are my privileges, and acknowledging all these different positions in play. And therefore, I have a bit more like, let's say, a bit more informal page about myself as well. I'm 25-year-old, which means I am quite old for a member in the Youth Advisory Board. In fact, due March, I will no longer be sitting in the advisory board, I imagine, because I'll turn 26, and that is too old to be part of it. So I am, even though I'm here representing the Youth Advisory Board, I am representing a very old version of the Youth Advisory Board as well. And a bit more fragile, I also speak as a queer, non-binary individual. And I've known this for many years, and I think it's an important part when you want to know from where I'm speaking. And I think when we're talking about empowerment through game design and when we're talking about participation or youth inclusion, it is always, always, always important to articulate the positions from where we speak. Because if we don't, we simply cannot mobilize them as a resource. Otherwise, they'll just hinder us in our communications. I also have an autism spectrum disorder, what's it called, diagnosis, and I have PTSD as well. So there are some neurodiversities to take care of and to think about. And I have very visibly, very obviously, I have white privilege, and I think, annoyingly enough, this has been a factor a few times in my life. I'm middle class, I'm able-bodied, which I think are also worth mentioning in game design. Especially able-bodied is like I could use a controller. That is a privilege that I often see overlooked in game designs. And I've made a short timeline about my time in Epic Wii and how I got in here. So to February this year, I participated in the first Aarhus Game Jam, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I was just like, this is a project that will combine cultural heritage and game design. They made a project specifically for my field of expertise and interest. So of course I had to join it. And due April, I was asked by Kim. Some of you may know Kim. Otherwise, he will talk on youth empowerment I think it's a talk or workshop later in the CPS series as well, which I will recommend. He's very good at what he's doing. So I'll definitely recommend that as well. He asked me to join the Youth Advisory Board. Back then, there were no other Youth Advisory Boards. It was actually kind of vague whether they would actually be established. So he asked me and a few others to maybe come with inputs on what would the role of the Youth Advisory Board be, how would we implement it, what were the political implications and the organizational implications for Epic We. And then due May, I had planned an internship at Aarhus University in this project because I thought this Epic We was a very, very interesting project. And before I could start there, Catherine, who were at the time working at Filmby Aarhus on Epic We, said, "Hey, uh, before you accept this internship, I may have a paid position for you in the project," which I of course accepted, having just finished my master's degree and were jobless. So perfect timing for me. And I was at Filmby Aarhus for I think 6 months, something like that, at least until October, where I then my position ended. And then I joined Aarhus University instead as a research assistant. So I have this long, almost like a year-long history with Epic We and approaching it from different angles, both as a participant and as a facilitator and as part of the research institution part of it and the game oriented part of it as well. So in many ways, I am very transdisciplinary in my approaches here and in my knowledges and expertises. The reasons I've enjoyed my first game was, of course, they made a perfect event that fit perfectly into my interest and overlaps between games culture and empowerment. And I think it is very much worth mentioning that once I saw this event, the first time I ever heard of it was on I think it was in a newsletter from Aarhus, and no one else I knew were remotely interested in this event, simply because my other colleagues and students were primarily interested in art and culture and not so much games, and they saw this and thought, well, what has games to do with culture? And I thought, well, let's find out. Let's prove the point here and just actually do it. And I think a lot of it was also the timing why I joined it. I had just finished my master's degree on game design and empowerment, and was jobless, had a lot of spare time and wanted to do something with games. And I thought, hey, let's do something with a game jam. I've always wanted to try a game jam. Let's do it. And then, of course, I wanted to learn to test out what I had learned as a hobby. I had started coding. I thought, hey, let's see where this goes. And doing that game jam, I made me and at the other on the team made this game called Art Parable. It says Parable. It's called Art Parable, a love letter to Stanley Parable and a critique of art historic discourse. And to be fair, I think the game design we achieved was quite poor. It was quite bad, to be honest. It was mainly point and click, and it was not very as a game design was not very juicy. It was actually just not fun to play at all. But it attempted to explore art history as from like a critical perspective of an unreliable narrator. And I have heard since that this game has been pointed out by some of the research experts as one of the a lot of people apparently found this game very interesting. Where I disagree, I think it's woefully uninteresting in its approach, and in many ways, I've actually found the event and the whole game jam quite disappointing. I had hoped for a lot more. So I was then asked to join the youth advisory board, and I thought, well, good. They're actually taking you seriously in this project. They talked a bit about it at the event, and I thought, well, people always talk, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt here, and let's see if they will walk the walk. And I thought, nice, I can infiltrate this project. I could get my grabby little hands on this cultural project and see how video games and the creative industries and youth empowerment and university organizations can work together. And I thought that would be a very good opportunity. And I thought, well, another reason to join. And mostly of all, I think this is maybe the most important part is I thought Great. I have several complaints. I have a lot of feedback to give, and I'm very critical to the approach that they have taken in this game jam. And those were my like primary thoughts back then. Oh, first critique was, oh, thank God it works. There's way too much paperwork. I think there were a total of 320 pages of paperwork back then, which is quite a lot, especially when you have 2 days to make a game and you also have to do what feels like a report on the whole thing as well. That were one of the main complaints, and that is a complaint that we continue to see, I know. And also, I had a lot of complaints in regards to accessibility and inclusiveness in it. We had very much repeated the flaws of the industry because we were doing this game jam during the weekend, and we were doing it all-nighters, 24 hours a day. We had crunch time. There was so much stress, and I thought, why on earth are we repeating the exact same flaw and poor working conditions of the video game industries? And I asked I think it was Kim at the time, one of the facilitators, and he said, well, we simply hadn't thought about it. We thought that like a game jam is always a 24-hour event, so of course we should do it again like that. And I started critiquing a lot of it as well with the noise and the neurodivergencies. As an autistic person, I am very sound sensitive, which made the whole event very difficult to actually tolerate and communicate in. There was a lot of noise, and the material facilities weren't that good for handling that noise. And something as neatly as and something as critical as the questionnaires that we were given were not very gender inclusive. And I thought, whoa, from a researching perspective, not knowing what gender identities people have when they participate is actually quite critical, especially when you want to ensure diversity and empowerment in it. And I ask as well, why on earth weren't I represented on the questionnaire and on the feedback schemes? And of course, there was also the aspect that this was a very difficult event. I had a master's degree in the stuff, and I could barely make it through it. And someone at age 15 was meant to just be able to pick up this guide that they had made and just be able to participate freely in this event. That seemed very unlikely to be the case. So I had a lot of critiques for the game plan. So I had a lot of reasons to join. And I think, oh, my computer just froze. Something is wrong with my computer. Well, I'll wing it. I had three reasons why I accepted to join today then, since I've... Oh, there we are. All of a sudden. 3 reasons why I accepted to join today, because now I've been in the project for a while. And first of all, having been in the project for almost a year, I think this project is on the way to do a great job in youth empowerment and youth inclusion. And I want to see where it leads. I want to see where this goes, and I want to see what we can achieve if we get to include each other and include partners in this as well. And I wanted to add to the debate, as usual, as before, I have a lot of critiques and a lot of feedback and a lot of thoughts. And secondly, empowerment is not only about empowering others. I think sometimes you also have to accept that you are about to be empowered. And empowerment is in many ways to do with the ability to speak and to be heard and to see and to compose what is heard and what is said. So in a way, this is also a bit of a nerve-wracking experience for me to have to take the stage and say, well, this is worth listening to. And you are going to listen to me. So those are like the main 3 reasons I accepted today. And I think from here, I might go into a bit of the insights into the more facilitating side of the Youth Advisory Board. I've been asked this question a lot. Why on earth would you establish a Youth Advisory Board? It seems like so much trouble to try to find young people to recruit and to then organize them, setting up meetings, always listening to them have to do something about the feedback. There are so many steps to do it, and primarily I would say there are two reasons. Firstly, if inclusion is your goal, how on earth are you gonna not include people in your processes? Um, Inclusion, if it is to be, or maybe that is the difference between inclusion and empowerment. Inclusion can be if like some like an Excel arc filled with feedback, while empowerment you have to listen more carefully. There is this whole question of when is participation equal, and I think that is a lot of it's in many ways it is the question of equity or equality. It is about the result and who gets to speak and who gets to be heard. Um, it's also a question of are everyone equal in speaking here? And I would say someone who's 15-year-old would probably have a much more difficult time approaching these things than I would. And in that way, we will need to like lift. I think you probably have all seen that silly photo with the baseball field where people are standing on crates. So I think a lot of it is questioning how can we help each other to participate as equally as possible, rather than simply asking how can we get as much feedback as possible. There's also the whole question of if you want to include youth in something, you have to ask the question, whose culture are we including in this? There's a whole lot of agendas, especially in Denmark, I know, about trying to encourage youth participation in the cultural heritage and in general in culture and art programs. And a lot of it neglects to actually recognize whether or not young people actually perceive the heritage as part of their cultural identity. And I think games is a good way of going here. That is also part of why this project is quite good. That is like one of the most important parts is inclusion as a goal in of itself. However, it is not the only reason to establish youth advisory boards. There is also the phenomenon that inclusion is a method of gaining new knowledge. It's a method of approaching our goals differently and gaining new expertises. In many ways, a youth advisory board is a near infinite source of critique and feedback. And especially if you get to involve youth more, they have a tendency to actually involve themselves and be more thorough in both the feedback, in their knowledge, and in their participation in your projects. We've had quite good success with this in Epicwe so far. Some of you might have seen this. This is the quadruple helix model, sketched very quickly because I had to do it this morning. It's a model that attempts to, communicate the structure of, amongst other projects, Epicwe, and the collaboration between the creative industries, the higher education, the cultural heritage, and the youth citizens. And this is the ideal model for these things. It has all sorts of been approved by all sorts of European councils, and a lot of clever heads have developed it. This is the optimal model where everyone participates equal and give feedback to each other equally and facilitates these cultural game jams equally. And this is one of the officially stated goals of Epicwe. But in reality, it usually goes something like this, where the creative industries and the cultural heritage institutes and the higher educations make something for youth citizens. This is where Epicwe has kind of achieved something that is very difficult to achieve in European context, that we have managed to include youth in these, what shall we call it, in these decision-making policies and events as well. So this model here, we have actually managed to transform into this model. And a lot of people are very happy about this. Amongst other things, the National Museum of Art in in Denmark. I can't actually remember if that is what it's called translated, but one of the very big museums in Denmark are asking, can we please borrow your youth advisory board? A lot of other people are trying to establish them now, seeing that this has been very successful. So I think the question now is, okay, we're definitely going somewhere, but the question is, what's next? Currently, Epicwe is establishing youth advisory boards everywhere in their partner countries, and that has been successful now. We have advisory boards in both with us and in Hilversum and in Aarhus. The next step is to point out some in Epicwe we have this advisory board where a lot of experts sit and advise on the decision making. And now we are including youth in that decision making. Each hub will appoint a member of the youth advisory board to be in this advisory hub and actually giving them a voice on the level with some of the top sitting researchers and policymakers in Europe. So hopefully we can establish that very soon. That would be very exciting. And I just got out of a meeting like a little over an hour ago about the planning of a cross-hub meeting for the youth advisories, where each country will attempt to get the youth advisory boards to meet and hopefully do something fun and exciting and creative and culturally relevant together, exchange our knowledges and expertises and get to know each other. And then there has been loose talks about maybe having the youth advisory boards come up with some policy suggestions for the EU councils on creative industries. So a lot of things are in the books right now. A lot of things are in the making. But most of all, I'm just excited to see where this is going. And most of all, I'm excited to see what Grace has to say, because I've been talking a lot and I think it's time for me to listen. I think that's it for mine.
Thanks a lot, Em. We'll get back to some questions for you at the end. Indeed. Let's give the Zoom to Grace that I introduced in the beginning. Grace, are you ready?
I'm here.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna be sharing my screen in a bit. Here. I don't know if you can see the screen.
Yes, this is perfect.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to the first yeah, so thanks for the opportunity. So I'm honored to be in your midst today. And though I am just quite really new on like am into the whole advisory board idea, I have quite some knowledge about where we are going and what we expect to achieve with all of this that we are doing in collaboration with other youth advisory board members in other countries. So today I'm gonna be sharing like more of my experience and how this is impacting me, what learnings I have from this, and what I wish this would achieve at the end of the day. So for me, I had to capture all of this in a simple phrase. It's beyond games. So when we think about games, we think about, okay, fun. Some people think about entertainment. Some people think about having a relaxing moment. But for me, I conceptualize games just beyond the fun, just beyond the entertainment. And as you would see later on, you would see examples of how this comes out to play. So about me, I am currently a sitting member of the Youth Advisory Board in the Netherlands chapter, working closely with the managing team of their Sounds and Vision Netherlands here in Hilversum. And also, I was an Epic Week Game Jam participant early this year when I was also carrying out my project in one of the universities here in the Netherlands relating to disabilities and how we can foster belonging for students and staffs who have disabilities who find it difficult to really learn. And I'm quite impressed to discover today from UM that you fall into one of these categories, and it it's delighting to see that people who have disabilities go out there and they do extra things, they do extraordinary things. So one of my projects was working on diversity and inclusion to help University of Amsterdam, the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences rather, to bring disabilities, people, students, and staff with disabilities closer, and to ensure they have a smooth learning process and there are no interruptions, and also using artificial intelligence to foster that whole process. And during that project, I and my team, we came up with an interactive game. And the whole idea behind that project was to create a bottom-up approach. So most times change happens in society, and it's always like a top-down approach from the management, from those who are above, from those who are our seniors, who are up the hierarchy, and youths most times always have to say, okay, yes, we accept, or having the option to say yes or no, and not really being part of the process. So that project was really an opening point for me where I had to co-create and bring stakeholders, people together to see, okay, what's really your problem? What's your situation? And how can we solve this together and then push this forward to the management, so it's not coming from just the management, but there's a bottom up approach where people are also owners of the change they want to see and their perspectives ahead and also seen. And it was true on my professional background. I have a legal background and also a business background, so an intersection between law, business, specializing more on human rights, what businesses are doing, how sustainable are they, and how is their action impacting the people, the community, and the people who use their products and services, and also those who do not maybe use their products or services but could be impacted. And I also have a background in media advocacy through my work with Collaborative Media Advocacy Network. It's a network that spans across Europe, precisely in the UK and also Africa. And I'm of Nigerian descent and also South African descent. And also I'm into gaming, which which I became more in depth. I went more in depth into gaming during my project at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and it's been worthwhile and really something that connects to me personally. And on a personal level, I would say I love change. I love interacting with people, and I'm passionate about digital technology and storytelling, content creating, because for me, people and change are things that know are constant. People die, people leave, people are born. And so we get to always meet people at every point in life and every stage of what we do. And at the Epic, we definitely meeting people, and in this situation, youths in particular, it's an important facet of the whole project. So before the Epic Week program, I was working, like I explained, on a project fostering belonging within educational setting using games. And it was during this program that I was informed about the Epic Week program. And like M said, it's always surprising that most people do not respond to these invitations. And so I was interested, and I had to bring my team together because I was working with a team. And so for the project not to suffer some, in terms of progress, I had to like convince my team that we had to participate in this game jam. And so we went to participate in the game jam there at Hilversum here in the Netherlands. And it was actually an impacting moment. So this was my first game jam, and as you can see, it was about coming to play. So playing for impact, playing to create impact out there in society. And though here you can see a board game, and that board game was centered around a storyline of was centered around the storyline of Niger. And Niger is a cultural and historic figure when you come to the Netherlands. You can also see it being used as a traffic light symbol in cities like Utrecht, where the figure the originated from. And so we had to create a game related to the European human rights value and also hinged on mental health as also a value that we want to portray and push forward. And so for me, it was like, okay, I really want to do this. I'm interested because I was curious to know, okay, I'm working on game and how to use game to ensure that people feel a sense of belonging and can have safe discussions with management and with their fellow peers. But then I was like, okay, how does this play out in a bigger perspective, in a bigger environment? Like, how does it play out in the real world sense? And how can we really use game to foster cultural conversations, to impact culture, to bring about social change? And so I had to like step in, and I that was how I came to be at this point. And we did this game. And so it was a board game centered around mental health. And Nine it's a cultural figure, like I said, tied to the Netherlands. And so once a person from the Netherlands sees this Nine, he or she can relate to it. And we went for Nine because we thought, okay, we just didn't want to do something that only maybe adults or youths of the age of 9, 10, 11 can also relate with it because these people also play games. They also interact with games. And so we had to pick the Ninche figure, and Ninche in that game was a person who was going through mental health issues. And we said, okay, how do we solve this mental health issue that Ninche is going through? And in that whole process, I saw the power of teamwork. I saw the power of perspectives, collaboration, and I got to know that, okay, a Dutch person, someone who is Dutch, would come up with a different perspective, and someone who is of the age of 19, 16 would come up with a different perspective, and myself would also come up with a different perspective. And so we had to harness all of this together and bring about our game, though not a very beautiful final prototype, but it was really engaging. And yeah, and so after that, I came to be part of the Epic Wheel Young Advisory Board member. And how the journey down here, it's actually one that has been impacting and one that causes me to every time reflect and ask myself, okay, what am I doing? Where is this going? And how can youth really have a voice in change? So for me, this comes as a kind of thesis for me, where I consider the fact that most times when solutions are given to us, we can easily blame or find faults if things go wrong. But if we as youth are part of the whole process, it is very difficult for us to make or point fingers or to blame or to see, okay, this went wrong, it's your fault. But when we are part of the process, it is less about it's your fault, but rather, okay, what we didn't we do well? What didn't we get right? What can we get right? What can we put together to make sure we get it right? And so it's like we taking ownership. It's about we taking ownership and offering, our expert advice. And youth are known to be vibrant people. We are known to have the flair, and we are known to think on the sport, to come up with ideas. And so providing youths the opportunity to be on the spotlight and to be part of the whole process is something I really find interesting. So for me, what does my role mean in the Epic We Young Advisory Board member? It means from supporting and coaching game jam participants, like I did in our last game jam we organized here in Netherlands. Also, it's about helping providing expert game advice to these participants to also see, okay, what are they thinking? In what line are they thinking? And you find that very interesting that their thoughts and how they perceive society and the culture they've been brought up in reflects immediately in the game they are making. And so you ask someone, oh, why did you make this game? Why did you do it this way? And unintentionally, they start telling you about their life stories and things that are closely related to them. And so for me, I have gotten quite a lot of learnings from this whole process. So number one is that it has a personal meaning for me, which is meeting people and also being part of a change that's not just gonna end with me, that's not just gonna empower me, but also open up the way to empower fellow youths. And so for me, the game, it's also like I said, the blame game. When youths are part of the process, youths take ownership and rather see and find ways to create a solution rather than just blaming because the solution was given to them and they had little options to either impact the process. And why is this beyond gaming? So I have two illustrations here to use, which is one, the Hellblade Stenhauser Sacrifice game and Fortnite. I mean, it's popular. It's we all know. I don't know. Let me not say we all know, but I'm sure we are familiar with the Fortnite phenomenon and how it has come to be like a cultural phenomenon out there, being represented in music, in culture, in fashion, in mainstream media, and youths being able to relate to it immediately. And not just that, they organize like events and youths participate in this event, and you find that gradually words are being built, words are being couched. Like you have words like good game in the game industry or in the game family. And so these are like cultures that are building up, and youths can easily relate to games. It's something that even someone with one disability or the other can relate with. It's a simple um, entry tool, I would say, to capture youth and also to maintain their interest through the process. And so it is beyond game because it really has an impact. And then back to the epic we, how can we learn from these examples like Fortnite to ensure that youths are also part of this process that are driving this change and they're not just giving opinions, but their opinions are also used to ensure that we reach the goal we want to reach. And another example is the Hellblade, which portrays psychosis, accurately raising awareness about mental health. So these are initiatives out there which are similar to Epic We initiatives, and I believe that we can all do this. And why are youths needed? So to emphasize more for me, Epic We and similar initiatives benefit immensely from including youths and by tapping on the innovative ideas that we have. Like I said, someone who comes from the Netherlands would not look at a solution like someone who comes from Denmark, or someone who comes from where they only have woods would not think like someone who comes from where they only have glasses. So you tap into the diverse perspectives of people, you tap into the innovative ideas of people and also the energy that drives creative projects every day. And for real change and real impact to happen, perspectives have to be respected, because if you're looking at something sustainable and something that you would not be the one to just drive, but people will also join you to drive that change, then we have to ensure that we bring in these perspectives together. And also, youths are important because we are culture makers. And what is culture? It's a way of life. So game has become a part of many people's life. It's now a culture for many people to say, okay, I want to relax. I'm going to play this game. I want to do this. I'm going to play this game. And it's a way people share their history, like their Never Alone game that tries to draw on the cultural heritage and language of people from the Alaska Native Kingdom. So this is one way that we can also see, okay, where are we going with this? And what culture do we want to create around this that people would use and voice it out and take it as their own to share around the world? And so, yeah, in all, I would say we can ensure that the next generations, including ourselves, because soon, like Em said, we would no longer be part of the advisory board and other people would also come in. So it's important that we ensure that each generation and each advisory board is equipped to create, innovate, and lead with empathy, and also stretching this out beyond epic we to reach to the right audience and other audience. And next steps. So what is next? So for me, I see ours what is next is about coming together, so exchanging knowledge between each advisory board members across the zone, across the region. So sharing these ideas and knowing, okay, where do we move from this? What do we create from this? I think that synergy and that collaboration across the regions really matters, across the countries really matters, because then it helps us see what impactful change we want to make out there and what continuity we want to see after our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Now the floor is open to questions. I could just kick it off by something that I've been thinking about that relates a bit to the work of Creative Business Network, where often artists and creatives are seen as almost like a tool for, they can help with public health, they can help in education, they can help in, all kinds. So they become kind of utilitarian. And I wondered, to what extent did either of you feel that it wasn't really, I think, I know also Conceição asked that or made that remark on, what is real participation? To what extent did you feel, or was it overcome, that you were kind of asked to join because you had to, or we needed you for something? You became utilitarian. And maybe Em, you might also elaborate on. You mentioned that I think it was probably SMK, the State Museum for the Arts, that have asked if they could borrow the Youth Advisory Board. Um, and again, it becomes kind of utilitarian when I ask, for what. So maybe both of you maybe you can kick it off, but then next up is Conceição with a question. So if either of you want to answer the first one here.
Yes, of course. I think it's a good critique, and it's also a good perspective to keep in mind. When are you actually using people, or when are you empowering people? And I think especially when you work as an organization, it is difficult to keep track on, because from one perspective you have your own requirements from the people who fund you, and often even state projects have national agendas as well. So I think it's a good perspective or a good thing to be critical of on whether. And I think the easy answer is just ask. That is usually the question in that a lot of people neglect to actually do, is just ask. Do you feel utilized right now? How can we make sure that you get something out of this that you want? And I think the tricky part about that is maybe more so how to not make it a transaction, but whether empowerment. And that is always difficult to navigate. I think in this case, when I was asked to join, Kim was very transparent. He simply said, "We don't know what this will be yet, but we want you and the other youth advisory boards to help shape it." And this is, I brought up that small model about with the whole arrows and the quadruple helix model, and I think that is usually how it goes. Is that, we are an organization. We want to do something. We want to include and empower youth. So we ask them what they want, and then we give it to them. But that's not empowerment. That's providing a product. Empowerment would be to instead, at least as we have conceptualized it in our youth advisory board, would be more to ask what you want and then continually asking, how can we help you get it? How can we include you in the process? How can we integrate you into as many aspects of these designs as possible? And some of the concrete things that we did was we gave feedback on the cultural game jam kit. So the whole paperwork thing I critiqued, we gave a lot of feedbacks on. And we also gave it on how are we even shaping this? Do we want to be on the advisory board at equal level as a participant? Are we getting paid for this? Is this because in a way that is also a power dynamic that you have to articulate. And all of these things are, a lot of it is about asking what you want instead of just providing something.
Great.
At least
Thank you,
to
Em.
me.
Thank you, Em. Yeah, both of you also, I mean, alluded to the, asking, do we come with predefined cultural topics and what is cultural value, or do we help you guys? Grace, do you want to add something to what Em said, or should we go to Conceição?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
okay, then Conceição.
Yes, thank you. Good morning or good afternoon. It depends on where you are. Thank you, Em, and thank you, Grace, for your great presentation. And I remember Em saying something like, "I'm not so youth" or something like that, because you are adults for me. I'm just joking. So, Grace, because I'm from Portugal, from the Portuguese Hub, and we are just in a phase of recruiting youth. And as far as I understood, particularly Grace, you already did a lot of things. You are not so youth. So what I'm thinking, and I hope you can help me, is if I have from Portugal, some people with at the first year of a bachelor degree from arts, for instance, interested as you did in going to this youth advisory board, and he will match with both of you guys. I'm thinking maybe they will be very uncomfortable because they are not working at an university like you. They are students and they are not working. So how do you think, from your perspective, you can, if I present them, okay, you can, I will not use empower, the empower word, but maybe you can give them a perspective. I mean, you that are more not so old as you and with not so background, how can you maybe involve them if they are not familiar with games? This is the case. Just imagine students from arts, visual arts, but they really want to have a voice, to represent other youth, to change the world. So what do you tell them, or how can you help me? It's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kirsten. Can I understand? Are you trying to know what age gap should be part of their youth advisory board, or are you asking how to approach them, how to make them they are
How to
interested,
approach
and how to
them?
bring
Yeah,
them? Okay.
because they are not, they are not so prepared, I would say, because they are younger as you and them.
I kind of hear your question, Conceição, as
Yeah.
both Grace and Em are resourceful,
Yes.
experienced people, and which is great, but also not necessarily, not everyone is resourceful, and so how do we
Yeah.
that aren't, Yeah. Grace, go ahead.
Okay. So I would use an example of my team. So in my team, we are quite a mix. The dynamics is quite a mix of young, not too young, and quite too young as well. So we have from a range of 19, 24, and 25 and the likes. And for me, when I was asking my team members why this means a lot for them and why they want to be part of it, they're like, okay, I don't have so much experience. I haven't done a master's. I'm still in my bachelor's. Like one person just finished the bachelor's and the other, she's still in her bachelor's. And so she's like, okay, it has a personal meaning for me. And so I'm like taking this up and I'm taking it boldly, like I'm just taking the bold step. And so it's one thing to make them understand that, okay, not having this whole experience, resources shouldn't stop you from going with the drive. Because what is important for initiatives like this is the drive. So, does this have any personal meaning for you? Like here in the Netherlands, it's always emphasized like, okay, you don't have to be part of this. Does it make any sense to you? What do you want to get out of this? Does it feel like it's taking you somewhere? Do you find any purpose in this? If you don't, you can step aside and let any other person participate. So the baseline for everything I would say is to make them to have discussions with them and discover, okay, is this making any personal sense for you? If it does, okay, what do you have? What are you bringing to the table? And how can you impact on this? And it's important that they approach it with an open mindset, especially when they are not so experienced or when they don't have so much knowledge. Because also me, I may sound so experienced, but I keep learning every day. And most times I'm naturally someone who jumps at opportunities once I find them. Because for me, I see learning as a continuous process. And so I can also learn even in the process. And so for me, gaming is not like my expertise, but it's something I have come to challenge myself to say, okay, I'm going to learn this. I want to learn this. I'm interested. It speaks a lot to me personally, and I really want to learn it. So for me, I think bringing them together, discovering their interest, and asking them, does this have any personal meaning for you? And if it does, then we can now say, okay, where are you lacking? And then we can say, okay, we fill that up by providing useful resources, useful tools, and useful toolkits or useful articles, and also coaching to make sure that they build up themselves to that character you want to see or they envisage themselves to be. Yeah. So that's what I would say. The interest is important. That's the base. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you very much.
If any of you have questions, or do you have a follow-up question, Conceição?
No, there is I believe, trying to.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if any of you have, you can either simply raise your hand, or you can write the question in the chat. You can also write me personally, whatever you want to do to participate in this discussion. But next up is M.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. Did I answer your question, Krista?
Conceição?
Yeah, yes, Grace. Yes,
Okay.
I appreciate. I'm just listening with with all the attention. Yeah, thank you.
Despite it already being answered, I think I want to add to it. I think this is also a question of empowerment as well. You cannot force anyone to be empowered, and it's a very difficult thing to have to ask the question: how do we get people to participate when they are usually very busy? And we had the same issue here in Aarhus as well. A lot of the participants in the cultural game jams in Aarhus are about 18-year-old, the first year of what we have in our education system, gymnasium, the first and second year and third year as well. And those are probably the time where you have the least spare time because you are in school from typically 8 till 16 every day, and then transportation home and homework next to that. and
Yeah.
some of them also have jobs at the side. I think a lot of it is of the challenges about having actually very young people on the youth advisory board is that they basically have no time for it. And one of the approaches that we are looking into are to see how can we encourage, how can we empower and encourage participation on different levels, and simply saying, okay, well, some of you clearly doesn't have the time to meet every Thursday or something like that. So can we some way give you a voice in this project despite the fact that you don't have that much time? Can we find ways for where we can technologically facilitate new feedback ways, or maybe find a way to have you give your voice or opinions on stuff, and then we do it. How can we facilitate this participation? I think the question is not do we get them to participate in the way we want them to participate, but how do we get them to participate on their own terms? And what are those terms, and how can we facilitate them? And I think it's a very provocative answer, because it puts a lot of work over on your plate. It just gives you all the tasks at work. But it is a difficult topic. It's a difficult task, and it's a challenge that we all must take up. I think that's my opinion on it, at least.
Thank you, Em.
Okay.
You're
Thank you.
seeing it.
Thank
You're
you.
seeing it kind of from both sides, I suppose. Now, you can both see the trouble of all the paperwork and stuff, but also you see it from the project side that, there is this paperwork because we have fulfilled certain criteria, as you said yourself, that comes. Rikke, you have some comments here. I wonder if you also would have you want to pitch in with some questions, or anyone else?
Yeah, I can take over. I'm just juggling live and webinars at the same time. So putting a Christmas stick in the oven while listening to some really, really, truly, I would say, epic presentations here. And now I'll turn the video on, because now I got my shirt backwards on, but on at least. So thank you. I would just wanted to really extend my gratitude. I'm Rikke Toft Nørgaard, I'm the coordinator and scientific lead of the project. Just wanted to extend my gratitude to you, Grace and Em, and everyone else in the youth advisory boards. I think and I'm almost crying, sorry. I think this is really what the project is about. It's been hard work. I would say, from a project coordinator perspective, it's super annoying involving youth in a project. They have so many opinions. They have so much critical reflections. They have so many critiques of all the things you do wrong all the time. But it's what makes the project epic, I would say. We could easily have done this without, as you say, really listening, having you as end users and then providing you with some solutions. But I think that would be an epic fail of a project such as Epic V, that actually tries to enact the quadruple helix, make youth perhaps not an equal partner, but at least more of an equal partner than usually, and try to, you cannot give youth a voice, but provide a space where they can have a say and come up with their opinions and dare to do so. So I was just I couldn't hold back. Sorry, I know it's very but this is truly epic, and I'm just so thrilled, because in the grant agreement proposal in the project, it wasn't even, it's not written in. It was not supposed to happen. It was actually something happening from the bottom up, based on the first game jam. This kind of pushback from some of the young people involved, that was really epic. Okay, so we want to achieve this empowered participation through culture making and game making. Well, I'm not sure we felt really empowered. And then taking that back and figuring out if we were to actually, walk the talk, as you said, actually take this seriously, or just ignore it and go on with the project. And I'm just Grace and Em, you're here giving a webinar. Yeah, it's thank you.
Thank you, Rikke.
And this is, as you say in conferences, this was more of a comment than a question. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to meeting the youth advisory boards across all 3 hubs more. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Rikke. I wonder, Emma and Grace, how can we be better at that? Well, you have both kind of alluded to it, but how can we simply make it easier to create this empowerment and to create the space that Reike talked about? Because yes, youth are, as everyone, busy. They have other stuff, and they might have a passion for games or for culture or European identity. I don't know. But how can we? Are there certain things that could be small quick fixes or even larger ones that would make it more accessible for non-resourceful also youth like yourself? You might not consider yourself that, but as Conceição said, you have a certain age, you have a certain experience, and what can we do? I was thinking the paperwork, for example, should we have an app just for that so it's quickly done? Digital submission of things that we need. Is the feedback, should it be more, should it be done in a different way? Anything. Should we pay you? Should we actually allocate funding for it?
I think first of all, yes, of course you should pay us.
Yeah.
I think that aspect of whether or not it's equal participation if you're paid is a whole other question. But I think the difficulty here is that Epic, we are in many ways laying a foundation for this. As mentioned, very few European projects has actually managed to integrate the quadruple helix as well as we have here in this project. Shout out to Rege for achieving that. That is quite the achievement. And as a result, as mentioned, people are interested and saying, whoa, oh my God, you managed to actually do this. So I think the difficulty is that this is very much uncharted territory. So what we can do right now is document the process as much as possible. And what we can do is to ask youth how to document this process as well, because this is not only a question about how can we as an organization facilitate this empowerment, it is also about asking youth, why are you participating? How can we facilitate that participation better? And even in the research department of having to write down a document how we are approaching this, include youth in that as well, because we will have some opinions and some takes and feedback as well to ask how to the documentation itself. So I think the question of how to secure this participation is that right now we are experimenting. I think we all are. So if you find something that works, please let me know. I would be happy to know. And I think that is the next critical point within both the Youth Advisory Board, but I also think in youth studies and inclusion empowerment studies as a whole is how do we get those who have less, I hate the word resources and skill, but who has the less capacity to speak the language of cultural projects like this. It requires, so it's not that young people are lacking the expertise to participate, is that we as an organization lack the ability to understand how they articulate this expertise. And I think that is a very important part of it, is that it's not about whether or not they are able to participate. They are able to participate. We just haven't learned how to facilitate it yet.
But wouldn't you also think that the other three parts of the quadruple helix are rather resourceful parts? The higher education institutions, are established.
Yes, definitely.
CCIs are maybe the ones that are, maybe some of them are, have to prioritize their time as well, because they have to make some money. And then we have the cultural heritage, and we call it cultural heritage institutions. We could have, said youth cultural heritage, because I suppose that exists as well. But in that sense, we're not talking to youth institutions. We're not talking to Dansk Ungdoms Fællesråd.
No, but we sure could have. And as part of what I've done as well is I have a talk later, I think in about a month, on diversity and inclusion as well. And I simply asked, a few of the Danish advisory boards and Danish institutes that work with inclusion and empowerment, and said, what are the resources that exist? And I think in a lot of ways, we could have asked a lot of the youth advisory institutions we could have to participate here, but in a way that would also have been a very cheap, not in the money sense of word, but cheap in the like it would have been an easy trick to do, but not necessarily the greatest trick. This is also about to examining how can we establish these things.
Exactly.
So it would have been easier, and would it probably have given us larger youth advisory boards? Yes. Would it have given these specific compositions of knowledge that we see now? No.
Probably not.
So it's always about
Susanna,
weighing
you have a question. Do you want to unmute and ask out? Susanna from the Netherlands, our partner there, Sound and Vision.
Well, I just found this conversation super interesting. I like that, you acknowledge that we are kind of pioneering. And I'm also always struggling with this of how to get youth involved early. I don't know that there's an easy answer to this, but of just what does it look like, I don't know, to have you be equal partners, and maybe where could you have been involved maybe earlier than this year in the project, if at all, and what could that have looked like? That we could also be documenting and taking in to give advice to. People want to do a quadruple helix, they don't have to wait till like 2/3 of the project to get it going.
Yeah, it's the challenge of, ideally, youth would have been part of shaping the project before we even, the proposal. So we would need to get the youth pick number on the portal. And that I think already is difficult, but you have a point there. The earlier, the better. So
I think I've spoken a lot. So Grace, please interrupt me if you have something to add.
I will.
I don't.
I will.
Good. I think because in regards to yes, of course, we would have loved to be youth should have been included already in the grant agreement. And as you mentioned, Rikke, this has been originally the youth advisory boards wasn't part of the whole organizational thing. It was written into as part of that weird quadruple helix thing where they're not really participating, but they're sure they somehow have a place in the project. And I think the difficulty here is that we are working within the framework of EU governmental law and governmental projects and governmental funding, which has its benefits. It's a great framework to work within, but it also means that we have to live up to a lot of these very formalized registries of how projects are put into the world and how they are emergent and how they are innovative. And we see the same thing in academia. A lot of academia is also a compromise of what can I actually get away with. I cannot be too radical if I want to be published, but at the same time, I don't want to not be published. I want to actually make some changes. I think here, my advice would be if you want an early project with youth advisory boards, make that on the organizational level. Include in Denmark, you have some governmental advisories on youth advisors and establish that they are there to help establish a youth advisory board, and then they're not part of the project anymore. So I think having in the early projects, write it into sort of the grant agreement or to the project proposal that once the youth advisory boards ought to be established as quickly as possible, and then see where that goes. And also, if you had the opportunity to change something on a much higher level than Epic, we grab the opportunity. I think a lot of people are looking to Epic Week to see how this will turn out. So maybe we can slowly make a ripple effect out into the larger European policy makers.
Yep. Any other questions or comments by anyone? Why you think I can maybe make a little bit of advertisement for our next session coming up in January on diversity. Here, so I'm again now I'm just ad-libbing a bit. Oh, we have Belit. You raised your hand. Go for it.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that we covered all the questions. So I will stop sharing my screen. Today, we would like to try out some interactive game-ish type of thing. We have prepared some very short statements, and we would like to ask everyone to react to these. You can keep your camera off, and let's say you can put out a heart if you agree. No, maybe a thumbs up if you agree, and a heart if you disagree with these statements. So let's see what comes out. I will first put it in the chat here, but I will also read them out loud. So please, let's see how do you react to these. So the first one, youth are more likely to connect and engage with culture and cultural activities through games than traditional education. So thumbs up if you agree, a heart if you don't. What do you think of this statement? So, like, if I do it like this, I think everyone can see the reaction I've put out. I see some people agree. Do we have anyone that doesn't agree? Like, do you disagree with this statement? No, I see generally people agree with this. Nice. Moving on. Another one here in the chats. Young people value entertainment or authenticity in cultural games. Thumbs up if you agree, a heart if you disagree. Okay, we have 2 hearts. Can I see who is? Okay. People are disagreeing. Was there anyone like Magnus, Rasmus, Ulrike to explain shortly why you disagree with this? Maybe.
I can try to explain super shortly. I might also have misinterpreted the question. I don't know. But I would say I think it's putting too little trust in young people if you think they want to be entertained. Like, entertainment is nice. It's nice to have fun. But it's also nice to do important or authentic things that perhaps have the opportunity to actually matter or create change. That's at least, like, my field is also higher education futures. That is at least my experience when talking to young people across the educational system, even like very young people, like kindergarten children.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to give some insight or their opinion on why they disagree with this statement, or should I move on to the next one? Because I am very curious.
Something?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so for me, I'm a bit in between because it depends now on at what stage is this youth or this young person involved in the game. So where you have someone just approaching the game, the ultimate goal is mostly for entertainment, for relaxation. But when you have someone coming from the point of creating the game, then you have more of emphasis on the authenticity in cultural games or authenticity in that game and the message that game wants to put out there. So it depends on what process, at what point is this young person involved more than the game itself.
Thank you. You raised your hand.
Yes, I of course also have an opinion of this, as I do with most things. I think this is a false dichotomy that you have got going on here. Is entertainment the opposite of authenticity or culture? I think that is a very bold statement to say. I think we have a tendency to say, oh, if it's mass culture, then it's bad, and if it's art or like traditionally understood art is good. And I think if we want to actually examine how games can be culture and how games are culture and how games can do culture and create culture and promote culture, we have to look beyond that simple dichotomy of whether or not something is entertaining or not. I think authenticity is one of those words that is used a lot, but what does it actually mean? I think a lot of people say authenticity when what they mean is quality. And when they say quality, what they mean is actually judgment of taste. I like this, or there is a certain cultural capital in liking this, and therefore I have opinions about it. And I think usually when that happens, we often end up saying our national or like our local ethical, moral judgment or value is at play here. Like, and usually what happens when we see this is that we tend to see gentrification, or we tend to see what's it called? Not colonialism, but a similar term, appropriation. And stuff like that often happens. So I think the question of whether or not games are entertaining or authentic is a dichotomy we need to move away from. I disagree with the existence of this question.
Good one. Okay. So I have one more before we move on to like the closing statements and announcing the next one, which kind of Rasmus already did. But let's see how you think, like what you think about this one. Cultural games just oversimplify culture and do not really connect people. So a thumbs up if you agree, a heart if you disagree. I give everyone a minute to think about it. Okay, we have some. I am curious to see for this one, is there anyone that actually agrees to this statement? Only if done superficially. Yes. Is there like anyone that would second this and maybe like come forward and explain why they think it oversimplified culture? I guess not. I guess.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Of course. Cultural games just oversimplify culture and do not really connect people.
So just as very short reflection without naming any names, I would say like, look, so in the project, we have promised to make 84 game concepts or prototypes. So, 80, 84, 80, no, yeah. So that's a lot of games and 300 and something youth. That's a lot of youth. And of course, not all games through and for culture, as they're called, are of like, not all the young people, as we talked about, are equally resourceful. We are not always very good at explaining, what is this about, and so on. So of course there are games in the games collection that perhaps, let's not say oversimplify, simplify culture, and perhaps do not really connect people, as there are in the rest of the games industry, or whenever we do education, or whatever we are doing. So it's like, it's complicated. It's something we are practicing. We are trying to figure this out. We are not there at all, I would say. And we are working together with young people like Em and Grace and everyone that participates in the game jam to figure out how to do this in a less poor, less bad, less failure kind of way. So we are failing forward, I would say. And the nice thing is, like, when someone from the outside looks at the game, they are quite excited. So it's just that we have very high hopes and very big dreams, because we know what can be achieved here when everything is kind of coming together, because we've seen it, like the epicness of the we. Yeah.
Thank you. Grace, yes.
Yeah, so for me, I think most of these questions are like putting me more in the middle position. So when you talk about cultural games, just oversimplified culture, the question also comes like, what culture are you talking about? And this takes us deeply to the intention of the game. What is the intent of this game? Why is it designed? Why is it put out there? Because you can have a game that tells people youth to pick up guns and start going and causing chaos, just like we see in movies. So there are movies that have quite a lot of impact on people, on youth, and all of that. So it's always important that we are clear as to what culture and we are talking about what culture really means in that context. And while some games could just oversimplify culture, quite right, we cannot displace the fact that it also connects people and brings that true connection.
Rasmus, were you going to say something?
No, I was wondering if we're done with our questionnaire.
Yes, we are. I will just very quickly show you this screen again. So we are taking a short break so everyone can enjoy the Christmas and the New Year's, and wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. But we are going to continue full speed on January 6th. I have already put the links in the chat, but if you don't have it, I will redo it now. Here it is. So we will see you on January 6th. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
for
See you.
Stay in touch, and happy holidays if you're taking some holidays.
Happy Xmas, even though war is not over, but we can always dream.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.